I never imagined a simple cleaner could transform a boy's crisis into a heartwarming miracle. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung heavy in the sky, casting shadows that seemed to dance ominously across the pavement. My hands trembled as I pushed open the door, heart pounding like a war drum. I watched from the corner, my eyes fixed on the janitorial woman so small and unassuming. She wore a silent smile, her eyes sparkling with a peculiar light. But there was something oddly captivating about her. Was it her wheelbarrow piled high with buckets and brushes? Or was it the strange aura that clung to her like a thick fog? I couldn't tell. My entire world hung on the edge of a knife. The recent accident, a twist of fate, had left my brother, Sam, broken. Not just physically, but deep inside. I could see it in the way he cowered in the shadows, the way his laughter had faded to silence. My heart ached every time I glanced at him, the vibrant boy I once knew, now just a ghost lurking in the corners of our home. As the janitor worked, she hummed a tune, soft and almost ethereal. The sound wrapped around me, drawing me closer. I felt drawn to her, as if she were a lighthouse in my stormy sea. I had never seen someone take such joy in cleaning, gliding the mop across the floor like it was a dance. Her hands moved deftly, almost as if she were weaving magic. Suddenly, she stopped. Her head snapped up, locking eyes with mine. I froze, breath caught in my throat. There was an ancient wisdom there, a depth so profound it sent shivers down my spine. My heart raced faster. What was she seeing in me? In Sam? With a knowing nod, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, gleaming object. A key? A trinket? Something caught the midday sun, and for a moment, I was blinded by its brilliance. As she approached Sam, my heart thundered in my chest. Would she help him? It felt absurd, but in that moment, I clung to hope with every fiber of my being. Yet, just as quickly as she came, she stepped back, fading into the shadows. I blinked, and she was gone, leaving only the bitter scent of cleaning supplies behind her. What just happened? The weight of silence was heavy, pressing against my chest. Just then, Sam's voice broke through the thick air, quivering and raw. "Who is she?" he asked, eyes wide with both fear and intrigue. A question lingered in the air between us, as loud as a scream. I had no answers. I felt an urgency rising within me, a desperate need to find that woman, to understand what she had seen. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. My search for the janitor became an obsession, a flickering flame guiding me through the darkness of uncertainty. The following days passed in a blur of routine, each moment weighed down by Sam's quiet despair. Our once lively home now felt like a tombstone, echoes of laughter replaced by the sound of my own heavy footsteps and Sam's shallow breaths. Every afternoon after school, I returned to that empty corridor, haunted by the memory of the woman who had offered a glimmer of hope. I wandered through the building, hoping to catch a fleeting glimpse of her. But fate proved unkind. Each corner held only emptiness, and the only sound was the echo of my own footsteps as I navigated through deserted halls. Then, one gray Wednesday, something shifted. As I walked past the lockers, I noticed a girl sitting on the floor, her knees drawn up to her chest. She looked up with tired eyes, reminiscent of Sam's when he was at his lowest. "Are you looking for someone?" she asked softly, an unexpected kindness in her voice. I hesitated, my heart catching in my throat. A janitor, I admitted. She was different. Special. The girl smiled faintly. "That's Mrs. Alba. She cleans here for a few hours every day. Everyone knows her. She has a way of making things feel lighter." I felt a rush of electricity. "Do you know where I can find her?" "Usually in the supply room at this time," she replied, pointing down the corridor. "She's the heart of this place." You'll feel it when you see her." With a newfound determination, I sprinted down the hall, barely breathing until I reached the door of the supply room. I hesitated at the threshold, remembering the mystery in the woman's gaze. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open. Inside, Mrs. Alba was hunched over a bucket, scrubbing at the floor with a spirit that made every stroke look like an act of love. When she lifted her head and met my eyes, the world around me faded. "Ah, there you are," she said as if she had been waiting for me all along. Her voice spilled warmth into my cold days. "You have questions?" "Yes," I stammered, feeling the weight of desperation hang like a storm cloud. "My brother, Sam, he's hurting. I don't know how to help him." Her expression softened. Sometimes, healing begins with understanding and allowing yourself to feel the hurt. I fought back tears. "But he's lost. He doesn't laugh anymore. I miss him." Mrs. Alba straightened, putting down her brush. She walked towards me, her small stature suddenly feeling larger than life. "Come," she beckoned. "Let's do something special." We made our way back to where Sam was confined in his room, his body a mere shell of the vibrant boy I once knew. As I entered, the air was thick with tension and silence. Sam lifted his head, confusion etched on his face. "This is Mrs. Alba," I introduced, feeling weak and fragile as I spoke. But the janitor was unshakable. "Hello, Sam," she said, her voice a soothing balm. "I have a story to share, if you want to listen." Her presence was magnetic. Even in his despair, Sam's eyes flickered with a hint of curiosity. He nodded, the slightest movement, painting a blush of hope upon my heart. As she began to speak, her voice flowed like honey, weaving tales of resilience and magic, memories of her own childhood fears and the struggles she overcame. She spoke of hurt transformed into strength and laughter blooming in the shadows. For a brief moment, the air shifted, a fragile bridge forming between Sam's sorrow and the world outside. I watched as Sam leaned in closer, enraptured by the simple, yet profound, power of her words. I felt the tension releasing its grasp, like a fragile flower pushing through dry soil. Yet, just as I began to believe in the miracle unfolding before me, the room was interrupted by a loud crash outside. Sam's eyes widened in alarm as I rushed to the window. A group of boys stood gathered, their laughter ringing like sharp daggers through the silence, one of them hoisting a trash can above his head, poised to send its contents raining down. My heart sank as I turned back to Sam, seeing the fear cloud his face. "Sam." "Listen," Mrs. Alba spoke softly, a steadiness in her voice that cut through the tension. "Remember, you have the power to choose how you respond to fear. You can rise above it." But before he could respond, one of the boys dropped the trash can, and a cascade of garbage spilled onto the pavement below, landing with a sickening thud. I turned to see Sam flinch, his expression twisted with dread. Everything we had begun to build felt fragile, ready to shatter. The air grew heavy with disbelief. Would we be able to pick up the pieces again, or was this moment destined to break him further when he needed support most? As I glanced at Mrs. Alba, I saw the resilience in her eyes, but would it be enough? In that moment of tension, caught somewhere between hope and despair, I took a deep breath and braced myself for whatever lay ahead. I sat frozen for a moment, the chaos outside pressing hard against my chest, a mix of anger and helplessness surging through me. The noise of laughter felt like cruel Jerringen assault on the fragile space we had barely opened between us and Sam. How could they be so oblivious, so cruel, when all I wanted was to see my brother smile again? "Focus on me, Sam," Mrs. Alba urged gently. "Let the noise outside be just theta noise. It cannot touch you unless you allow it to." Her calmness wrapped around us, an anchor in the tempest. I felt a fleeting sense of gratitude for her presence, that fierce light in the cloaked gloom, but would it be enough to shield Sam from the storm raging just outside? Sam swallowed hard, his breathing quickening as the boys outside erupted into a cacophony of taunts and jeers. But I could see the flicker in his eyes, a struggle between the fear that threatened to overwhelm and the tiny, desirable hope Mrs. Alba had ignited within him. "Remember," she continued softly, her voice imbued with a kind of magic. The strength you have inside you is more powerful than any words thrown your way. You are not defined by their laughter. You rise above it. With her wise words weaving a delicate barrier against the outside world, I saw Sam's gaze fall to the floor, his thoughts swirling like leaves caught in a harsh wind. I yearned to reach out, to comfort him physically, but felt paralyzed by my own fear of shattering that fragile moment. Then, it happened, a small miracle. As Mrs. Alba continued to talk softly, imparting stories of kindness where there seemed to be none, Sam's shoulders relaxed, if only slightly. His breathing steadied, and for the first time in an eternity, I saw a ghost of a smile attempt to break through the storm cloud in his eyes. Just as hope surged within me, the laughter outside got louder, pushing against the walls of our shared sanctuary. I couldn't bear it any longer. I turned on my heel and stormed to the window, ready to confront the taunting light that the boys brought, to demand they leave Sam alone. But before I could act, Mrs. Alba's voice cut through me. "Let's transform that energy, shall we?" she said, capturing my attention and drawing me back to her. "Sam, I want you to imagine something magical, a world far beyond these walls, where courage echoes and the flowers bloom despite the storms. Can you paint that picture in your mind?" Sam looked up at her, confusion warring with apprehension. My heart raced as I watched the shift happen. He was drawn in like a moth to a flame. "Imagine it," Mrs. Alba coaxed, her voice nothing short of an incantation. "A garden filled with colors, laughter shared among friends, and the joy that comes when you choose to rise above." And then, with unexpected ease, she caught his gaze and held it, as if they were two characters steering a ship through murky waters. I leaned in, all ears, caught in a web of her words. I could see the tiniest flicker of resolve igniting in Sam's eyes, the storm within him quieting like the calm after a downpour. But just as everything felt like it was leaning toward recovery, a sudden loud crash broke the atmosphere. Fatigue and despair flooded back in from outside, created by a stray soccer ball that had careened off the wall and into Sam's window. Sam jumped, and the tenuous thread of hope unraveled with that single act. I felt lost. Had we been pulled back into darkness? Did the universe delight in tearing apart these precious moments? No. I heard myself cry. Not again. Frustration surged. I clawed at the walls of my heart, bothered by the unfairness of it all. How cruel it felt to be so close, only to be pushed further away. I turned to see Sam's face now drained of color, and it sent an arrow of despair through me. Mrs. Alba's warm presence was still there, but I could see it wasn't enough. And then, tears began to spill from Sam's eyes. Silent at first, but soon, the dam broke. "I'm tired," he whispered. "I don't want to hurt anymore." I rushed to his side, pulling him into my arms, feeling the weight of his sorrow press into me. "You don't have to face this alone," I choked out, each word battling against the swell of emotion inside me. "We'll fight together. Just don't give up." Mrs. Alba joined us, her hand resting on Sam's back, amplifying the comfort of our shared connection. "That's it, Sam," she affirmed, gently caressing his shoulder. "Let it all out. You're safe here. No matter how loud the world gets." But just as I began to believe in the warmth of that moment, the door to the room burst open. I turned to see the same group of boys, a barrage of wicked smiles and sneers as they narrowed in on us. "Look who's crying. What a loser," they roared, their laughs ringing like bells of despair through my chest. And in an instant, I felt hope waver, suspended on a precipice between kindness and cruelty. Would we crumble before the chaos once more? Or could we fight against it, united by a bond that felt both fragile and fiercely protective? In that moment, I held on to Sam tighter, feeling the cadence of his heartbeat against mine, wondering if even a simple cleaner could weave together a tapestry of resilience against the despair surrounding us. What other threads remained unspooled? That lingering notion stayed with me as I braced for the confrontation that would determine our fate. The laughter thundered behind me, and I felt the weight of it press against my chest like a ton of bricks. The boys had filled the doorway, casting shadows that threatened to swallow us whole. Panic clawed its way through my veins, but I refused to allow myself to break. "Not now. What do you want?" I managed to blurt out, my voice steadier than I felt, hoping to protect Sam just a little longer. One of the boys stepped forward, a grin plastered on his face. "We just came to see the little crybaby," he taunted, his voice dripping with malice. "What's he crying about today? Did you lose your imaginary friend?" My grip tightened around Sam, who was trembling beside me, his tears staining my shirt. I wished for all the strength I could muster, not only for myself but for my brother, who was drowning in doubt and ridicule. "Leave him alone," I shouted, more fiercely than I intended, but the words slipped free as if pulled by a string of invisible courage. The hall fell silent for a moment, and I seized the time for Sam. "You are not alone, and you are not a loser, Sam. You're stronger than all their sick little jokes." The other boys shifted uncomfortably, taken aback by my boldness, but their laughter quickly returned, echoing off the walls like a haunting refrain. Look at that. He's got a big sister to protect him. Pathetic." I felt Sam shrink further into my side, and something within me snapped. The softness of Mrs. Alba's voice echoed in my mind. "The strength you have inside you is more powerful than any words thrown your way." "Yeah, I'm his sister, and I'll always be here," I said defiantly, the flames of indignation burning within me. "You think this makes you tough? It doesn't. It shows how insecure you truly are." The lead boy's brows knitted together in confusion, and for a fleeting second, I saw uncertainty flash across his face. Perhaps the truth had touched a nerve. But the moment faltered as another boy chimed in. "What's the matter? You scared of us? You think words can hurt us? You're just a loser too." "I don't care what you think," I spat back, words flying forth fueled by desperation and protectiveness. "I fight for my brother, and I will fight you if you think you can hurt him. So run along and tell your friends how much of a coward you are, because that's all you'll ever be." Yet, before my confidence could extend into anything more, a small voice broke through the noise. It was Sam, his deep brown eyes shimmering with a glimmer of strength that had been buried too long. "Stop it," he whispered. "Just stop." The boys hesitated, the laughter fading into an awkward silence. I turned to Sam, my heart swelling with pride and fear all at once. His bravery was a candle lit against the harsh wind outside, a fragile flame I wanted to protect with my life. "I'm done being scared," he said, voice firm yet quivering. "I don't need to listen to you anymore." To my surprise, the boys exchanged looks, a mix of disbelief and shock riding across their faces. The tide was shifting, and something magical began to happen. Just then, Mrs. Alba stepped forward, positioning herself beside us, an unyielding wall of compassion. "You have all forgotten a truth," she began, her voice resonating with authority. "Words may hurt, but kindness is a force stronger than any weapon you wield. You don't have to hide behind cruelty. Empathy and understanding will take you farther." The boys shuffled uneasily. One shifted his gaze away from us, discomfort etched across his features. And in that moment of tension, an unexpected kindness peeked through the cracks created by the chaos outside. A girl from a lower grade appeared from around the corner, her hands wrapped around a homemade card decorated with flowers and rainbows. "Sam, I made this for you," she stammered, looking up at him with earnestness. The shift hit like a cool breeze, washing away the tension. The boys stared, mouths agape, confused by the girl's innocent act of compassion. Sam blinked in surprise, the card held delicately in her small hands, and as he took it, I could see his eyes widen with the emergence of hope. "Thank you," he whispered, the card a lifeline. The boys didn't know how to react. They stood there, caught between the world of bullies and the profound tenderness exhibited in that one small gesture. But then, with a flick of the lead boy's wrist, he scoffed, "Whatever. You think a stupid card can save him?" He stepped back, trying to mask his unease. And with that, like a flock of crows, the group retreated, laughter fading behind them, leaving us with a strange feeling of victory. Yet, just as our sanctuary closed around us, the atmosphere shifted. I turned to Sam, ready to swallow the emotion threatening to bubble over. But he wasn't focused on the card. He was staring blankly in the direction the boys had just left. "Sam?" I murmured, suddenly anxious. "What's wrong?" He turned to me, and his expression shattered my heart. "What if they come back? What if this was just a one-time thing? I thought I could rise above, but what if I'm still the loser? Sam, listen, I began, desperation flooding my words. You are not defined by their opinions. You just showed incredible strength. You fought back, even when it felt hopeless. That matters. But the seed of doubt was embedded deep within him, and I could see it pulling him down like an anchor. I felt something rustling behind me, a flicker of warmth amidst the despair that bound us. Would the light be strong enough to pull us through the darkness again, or were we merely delaying the inevitable? And just as I was about to reassure Sam again, the door creaked open once more. My heart sank. Would they return? But instead, a voice flooded in, laced with a startling calmness. I understand if you want to fight, but how about we explore kindness instead? A girl stepped in, one I recognized, a student whose gentle smile had always been a beacon in the chaotic halls of our school. Standing there, radiating understanding, she held no punches, only compassion, leaving me to wonder the real battle might not be with them at all. Would it be within us? And as questions danced with uncertainty, I clung to the bond of my brother and the flickering lights of kindness around us, not knowing if it would be enough or if a greater storm would sweep in again. The cool air felt heavy as we stood in the aftermath of the encounter, the hallway still echoing faintly with laughter that had long since faded. I watched Sam's shoulders rise and fall with each shaky breath, his gaze lost somewhere far beyond the splintered floorboards. The girl, the one who had spoken of kindness, moved nearer, her eyes holding a depth of understanding that created a small crack in the weight of despair that rested between us. "Hey, Mia," she said softly, her voice like a soft breeze on a sunny day. "You're Sam, right? I saw what happened. That was really brave of you." The words danced tentatively into the air, and I noticed Sam glance her way, a ghost of a smile flickering across his face. "Thanks," he murmured, though it was clear the battle within him was far from over. Mia knelt down to his level, her kindness drawing him in. "I used to feel like I didn't belong either. But then I learned that sometimes, the people who try to bring us down are dealing with their own problems." Her gaze shifted slightly, a distant look creeping into her eyes for a moment before she continued. "Maybe you could share your artwork with the class. It might help others see you differently." Sam hesitated, the suggestion settling into the silence of uncertainty. "But what if they laugh again? What if they don't?" Mia countered gently. "You won't know until you try. Showing your talent could show them who you really are beyond the name-calling." Her words seemed to resonate, but I could see the turmoil still swirling inside him, questions battling for dominance in his mind. "But isn't it just—" he paused, his voice faltering. "Safer to stay quiet?" I leaned closer, not wanting to let this moment of hope slip away. "You've always encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone. Remember when I joined that theater group? What if you could do the same? Try sharing what you love, even if it's scary?" Mia smiled, her confidence shining through. "Exactly. Imagine how much brighter your world could be." Just then, a flicker of something fierce lit up Sam's eyes. "Okay," he breathed out, his heart tentative but resolute. "I'll think about it." Relief washed over me, for it felt as if we had taken one small step into the light. Each moment of kindness pushed against the darkness surrounding us, a reminder that perhaps we were not alone. The bell jingled, and the vibrant commotion of students flowing through the hallways resumed, yet for us, time stood still. I could sense the outside laughter hanging in the air, a tension still palpable, but MIA's present, the calm spirit within chaos offered a fragile sense of sanctuary. Our moment was short-lived. Just as we turned to leave, Mrs. Alba appeared again, her expression tinged with concern. "Is everything all right?" "Sam just shared his plan to use his art," I replied, hoping to stoke the fire of courage already ignited. "That's wonderful!" Mrs. Alba exclaimed, her voice like a soothing balm. Yet, as she spoke, a deep crevice of worry clouded her brow. "Just remember, if things ever get too difficult, I am here for you both." When the bell rang again, urging us to move, I grabbed Sam's hand, hoping to take that feeling of hope with us. As we stepped into the chaotic sea of students, I glanced back at Mia, who smiled encouragingly, her presence a silent promise that we weren't alone in this battle. Days passed, each bringing its own chaos and whispers of darkness. Sam practiced more on his sketches, pouring himself into each stroke, even began to share his work with a few of his friends. Each time he mentioned his art, a flicker of pride would swell within me, even as the whispers of doubt tried to encroach upon him. But then came a day when whispers turned into something far more chilling. Our routine was shattered during lunch when a paper airplane glided through the air, landing squarely on Sam's tray. The laughter erupted around the cafeteria, drowning out the serenity we had built even momentarily. I turned, apprehension flooding through me, watching as Sam's face flushed, the traces of pride morphing into hurt as he glanced at the crude drawing hastily scribbled on the paper, an illustration of a cowering figure below an oversized title, "Loser, Sam." I reached out, my voice starting to break apart within the chaos. "Don't listen, just leave me alone," he shouted, shaking with emotion, but as he stood, his figure silhouetted against the barrage of giggles, something had twisted inside him. He looked at the paper, and then at me, and I braced for the storm I knew was brewing, and then, just as Sam's eyes began to glisten with tears, a sudden whisper of defiance caught the corner of my mind. In the midst of his vulnerability, beneath the weight of cruelty, I felt a shift. There was power in embracing both awe and uncertainty. I stepped forward, a fierce guardian, ready to shield him from the tidal wave of laughter that threatened to drown us both. "Sam," I said, my voice trembling but determined, "this doesn't define you. You're an artist, a survivor. Together, we can face anything." As the boys who had thrown the paper airplane smirked, ready to pounce on the chaos they had conjured, I saw the spark flickering back to life in Sam's eyes, but before I could strike back, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Mia again, stepping highly resolute, and she raised her hand. "Stop it. This isn't who you are. It's time to choose kindness." The cafeteria fell silent, eyes darting nervously. My heart raced, unsure if we were on the precipice of something beautiful or another blow to our confidence, and that was without question a cliffhanger I hadn't been prepared for. In the influx of emotions and uncertainty, we stood on the edge of countless possibilities, knowing all too well that every decision we made would either lead us closer to hope or deeper into despair. The silence in the cafeteria was palpable, a thick blanket of tension enveloping us all as Mia stood firm, her gaze unwavering. I could see the wheels turning in Sam's mind, a mix of confusion and gratitude flickering across his features. He was caught between anger and the warmth of unexpected support, a fragile flame amid the tempest of mockery. "Do you really want to be known for this?" Mia pressed, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "All of you?" She glanced at the group of boys, their smirks faltering slightly under her scrutiny. "This isn't just a joke. It hurts real people." One of the boys, a tall figure with dark hair and arrogance written all over him, shook his head dismissively. "Whatever, Mia. No one's taking you seriously. You think you're some kind of hero? Everyone's laughing." "It's just a joke," he sneered, but there was a tremor in his bravado. Mia took a step closer, her determination unwavering. "But it's not funny if you're hurting someone else in the process. Can't you see how weak it is to choose mocking over kindness? You're better than this." A ripple of uncertainty passed through the other boys, their shared laughter growing brittle, and the attention in the cafeteria shifted slowly, from Sam to Mia, and then back to Sam. I reached for Sam's hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. In that moment, something within him seemed to shift. The fire that had sparked when he first thought about sharing his art reignited as he heard Mia's words, bathing him in light. He drew in a deep breath, and my heart pounded with hope. "Sam, you are brave. You can be so much more than what they say," I whispered, urging him to amplify the strength already bubbling within him. He looked down at the paper airplane, crumpled and discarded on his tray, and then back at the surrounding students. Each face, once blurred in the din, now became distinct. The laughter had dulled, replaced by whispers. Mia's standing there, her defiance openly casting until it felt like it shone a spotlight on Sam, offering clarity amid the chaos. With tentative hands, Sam finally tore the paper airplane into shreds, the sound crisp, resonating in the silence like a declaration. "I am not a loser," he said quietly but firmly, daring to defy the narrative they had crafted for him. "I'm an artist." His voice wavered, but held a resolute edge, a chilling contrast to the jeers just moments before. Cheers and applause erupted from unexpected corners of the cafeteria, students who had quietly supported him but remained silent in fear. I felt hope unfurl in my chest, bright and fierce, wrapping its tendrils around us both. But as the applause faded, the tall boy before us narrowed his eyes, the darkness resurfacing. "What do you think you're doing? This isn't over," he barked. The threat lingered in the air, chillier than the breeze of autumn seeping in through the cracked cafeteria windows. "Mia," I murmured, anxiety prickling my spine. This was supposed to offer Sam a moment of solace, not another layer of conflict. I felt her steady presence beside us, something almost ethereal cutting through the darkness, encroaching around us. It took mere seconds for the tension to explode once more. The tall boy shoved his tray away, and with a flick of his wrist, he sent Sam's remaining art supplies crashing to the floor, a kaleidoscope of colors and shadows scattered around us. I gasped, feeling the air catch in my lungs as Sam flinched. The sight of his creations, his dreams spilled out like a shattered portrait, was enough to make my heart sink. As the laughter directed towards Sam morphed back into cruelty, I felt helpless, all courage draining away. "Sam, please," I urged, stepping closer to him, seeking to guide him away from the pain surrounding us. Let's get out of here." But Sam froze, his gaze piercing through the students who were now recoiling from the scene unfolding before them. There was a wild light in his eyes, a revelation as understanding pulsed through him. "No," he cried, his voice ringing clear. "No more running. If they think this is a joke, then let's show them just how serious kindness can be." It lit a fire inside me, a deep, raging wildfire of defiance stirred by his courage. My heart swelled with pride, though fear too gripped me. The confrontation had reached a precipice. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, Sam started to speak, his voice steady now, engineering a wave of silence around us. "I want everyone to know what art really means, what it's about, even when it's uncomfortable. I choose to share my truth, no matter how it's received." In a single beat, the cafeteria transformed. Laughter lingered at the edges, but I felt a shift, the undercurrent of tension morphing into a wave of intrigue. Faces of untold stories filled the room, reflecting both empathy and curiosity. Just as I feared the storm could engulf us, Sam's proclamation gave birth to something new, a momentary truce, an unspoken agreement that perhaps change was indeed possible. But the tall boy wasn't finished, rage flickering in his eyes as he desperately clawed for control. "You think you're so tough? We'll see about that." Before he could act again, a sudden force crackled through the air, a flicker of unpredictability born from chaos. A figure emerged yet again in the fringes, someone I hadn't noticed until now. A cleaner hood often wafted through the halls, a dust mop in hand and gentle patience in their gaze. With a breath of resolve, they stepped forward, confronting the chaos with simple dignity. "Why don't we try sharing kindness instead? Art speaks to all of us in different ways, if we allow it," they called out, their voice surprisingly clear amid the tumult. The cafeteria hushed, bewilderment washing over the students as they looked to this unexpected agent of change. Every eye turned, and I knew we had crossed an invisible line. This moment marked the beginning of something larger than Sam, beyond just one school day. The choice for kindness tangled with the chaotic threads of adolescence jolted us all, and as fear and hope fought for dominance within me, I held my breath, waiting for the next wave, wondering what revelation awaited us now. As the cleaner's words hung in the air, a fog of disbelief enveloped the cafeteria. It felt surreal, powerful in a way that rippled through each corner of the room, touching every hesitant heart. The atmosphere shimmered with a blend of hesitant hope and latent hostility, sparking an indescribable tension that seemed to stretch beyond the confines of those walls. Sam's eyes searched the crowd, and for the first time, he seemed to harness the myriad of emotions swirling around him. The bravado born of Mia's encouragement twinkled in his gaze, but beneath it loomed uncertainty. With every breath, the weight of expectation and fear pressed down upon him. What if his words fell flat? What if the illuminated hearts around him turned cold once more? The cleaner stepped forward again, humble yet commanding. "Each one of you contributes to the world around you," they said, attempting to bridge the chasm between those who chose kindness and those ensnared by cruelty. Why not use the power you have to uplift instead of tear down? Their steadfast spirit sparked an echo of voices. A chorus of support emerged from the corners where silence had reigned for too long. "Let him speak," someone from the back shouted, followed by a wave of murmurs and nods in agreement. In the face of stirring support, the tall boy stood frozen, bewildered, evidently struggling to comprehend how his bullying had failed to retain its grip over this pivotal moment. His bravado cracked. "Why are you all acting like this? He's just a loser." He rallied weakly, facing a room that no longer reflected the narrative he'd sought to control. Murmurs rippled through the crowd again, this time punctuated with expressions of empathy for Sam. The tide was turning, and it flooded Sam's heart with the exhilaration of possibility. He lowered his chin, emboldened, gathering his thoughts like pieces of a puzzle he was determined to complete. "I may not be popular," Sam began, his voice quaking at first, but growing steadier with each word, "but art is my refuge. It's where I can be myself. It's easy to laugh, easy to mock, but it takes real courage to be vulnerable." Every word reflected layers of his own experience, the sleepless nights spent drafting dreams that drifted like stars, only to feel uprooted in daylight's harsh glare. He spoke of vulnerability being a strength, how it invited connection rather than isolation. I could see those around him absorbing, shifting perspectives like opening flowers in dawn, but just as Sam started to rise above the noise, the tall boy retaliated. "You think sharing some sad story is going to make people like you? You're pathetic." His voice grated against the fragile atmosphere, desperately clawing for attention, but Sam would not retreat. Before I could react, Mia stepped forward, placing herself protectively beside Sam. "And what's pathetic is pretending to be someone you're not, hiding behind cruelty to mask your insecurities," she shot back, firing an arrow of truth that cut through the thick tension. "You're afraid of what it means to be truly seen, aren't you?" The smirk slipped from the tall boy's face, replaced by a fleeting vulnerability that passed like a shadow across his features. I watched as a battle waged within him, unsure of whether to retreat into the safety of his facade or confront the self he had long buried beneath layers of bravado. Finally, the cleaner's voice interjected gently. "None of us are perfect. We all have our battles. Let's find strength in our differences rather than divide ourselves." In that moment, they reached for a crumpled drawing that had fallen on the floor amid the chaotic aftermath of Sam's supplies. "Art helps us see each other clearly." With a trembling hand, the cleaner offered the drawing back to Sam. An act so small yet monumental, I could see it ground him. A flash of a smile crept into his eyes, and that flicker illuminated his spirit. Mia and I held our breath as Sam reached out slowly, accepting the paper, the embodiment of his struggles, his triumphs, and the courage to stand in the face of ridicule. He hesitated for only a heartbeat before lifting it to the crowd. "This is who I am," he declared, his voice steady, unwavering. And then, like a heartbeat resounding in the stillness, the boy broke. The tall, arrogant figure before us wavered. The bravado he had relied on began to crumble as vulnerability seeped into the cracks. He was still standing, but I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes as the crowd turned back to look at him. "Everyone has a story," Sam continued, not breaking his gaze from the boy. "Maybe we could all share ours together." The offer hung in the stillness, courageous and unyielding, but the boy seemed poised at an emotional edge. In the swirl of acceptance misfiring against his chest, a deeper tension arose as he cast his eyes downward. "What if your story isn't good enough?" he whispered, his voice trembling for once with honesty as he wrestled with the world had constructed against his own unbearable truths. I gasped at the revelation that tore through his facade. All along, he had understood vulnerability, but had recklessly chosen to drown it in mockery, hoping to shield himself from judgment. The room felt electric, snared in captivated silence, but before the seeds of transformation could take root, I felt a tremor beneath my feet. Suddenly, the fire alarm blared, cutting through the fragile moment like jagged glass, leaving us in the shocking aftermath of uncertainty. "Everyone evacuate!" shouted the teacher overseeing the chaos, scrambling to corral the students into order. I watched Sam's fleeting smile fade as panic washed over the cafeteria. In that split second, as students surged toward the doors, I reached for Sam's hand, pulling him close as the world outside whirled into chaos. "We'll talk after, I promise. Just hold on," I yelled above the cacophony, anxiety creeping in. But as the crowd surged through the doors, a chilling sensation twisted my gut. I glanced back, and to my horror, I saw the tall boy still standing at the center of the disarray, wrestling with something unknown darkening his eyes. "Sam," he shouted, but his voice was lost amid the terror and the rush of bodies. A hollow pit opened up inside me. The moment of promise we had just forged was about to fracture, and I couldn't shake the fear that what lay beyond the evacuation was far more treacherous than we'd ever anticipated. And just as I pulled Sam toward safety, a figure appeared in the corridor behind USA face I recognized. One I hadn't thought would ever cross our path again. A revelation born from chaos jolted through my heart as their intention shattered everything I believed about the fragile alliances we'd just begun to form. Would we emerge from this moment unscathed, or was a storm brewing that none of us saw coming? As the fire alarm blared incessantly, panic surged through the cafeteria like a sudden flood. My heart raced with urgency as I positioned myself between Sam and the whirlwind of fleeing students. "We need to go now," I urged him, my voice barely audible above the chaos. Sam clutched his drawing closely, his eyes darting among the crowd, caught in the remnants of the moment before the entanglements of fear took hold. There was so much more to say, to share, and yet the world around us demanded immediate action, stripping away the fragile layers of courage we had just begun to peel back. I can't leave him," he exclaimed, motioning toward the tall boy standing alone in the middle of the fray. My stomach tightened at his words. "Sam, we don't have time. We can't help him if we don't get out first," I insisted, feeling a knot of helplessness constrict my chest. The boy's expression was a tempest of emotions, yet discernible through the fear and resentment was an emerging vulnerability that pained me to witness. Before I could process it further, a firm hand gripped my shoulder, pulling me reluctantly backward. "Get moving," shouted Miss Thompson, the teacher on duty. Her voice cut through the chaos, strong and authoritative. To my surprise, she was joined by the cleaner, who had seamlessly shifted from their role of observer to a guiding figure. "Stay together, everyone. We'll regroup outside." As we stumbled through the doorway, I dared a glance back one last time. The tall boy remained rooted in place, swallowed by the uproar, the brief glimmer of vulnerability extinguished under a new layer of fear. I could see the question in his eyes. What now? But there was no time for resolution, only an aching sense of loss blooming in my chest. Once outside, the cool air hit like a wave, sharp and refreshing, even as the cries of students mingled with distress. The gathering crowd clustered together in parking lot chaos, faces painted with confusion, excitement, and fear. I felt the grip of Sam's hand tighten around mine, as though our fates were intertwined in a tapestry of uncertainty. "Where's Mia?" Sam suddenly asked, his voice shrouded in panic as he scanned the faces around us. The worry etched on his features was palpable, a stark contrast to the strength he had just shown. The boy had found courage, but lost something invaluable in the wake of the tumult. "I don't know," I replied, the reality that Mia might have been lost in the crowd sending icy shivers down my spine. "Let's find her." We began weaving through the clusters of students, hearts pounding in sync. The energy outside was frantic, but a scattering of faculty members worked to establish some order, shepherding us toward the safety of the school's parking lot. I kept my eyes peeled, desperately twisting and turning until I saw her at the edge of the parking lot, her shock and confusion making her look smaller than usual. "Mia," I called out as I pushed through the throng, urgency gripping me. Relief washed over me when she turned, and we rushed to meet in a chaotic embrace. "I thought you were." I was just, "Oh my God." Mia cut off, her eyes wide with disbelief as reality settled in. I can't believe this is happening. As we regrouped, an uneasy silence imbued our surroundings as more students filtered outside, each filled with the weight of disconcerting gasps and unsettling murmurs. The thrill of shared vulnerability faded in the face of what had occurred, now clouded by the looming uncertainty of the fire drill. Just as I thought the storm had passed, a shadow flickered in the corner of my vision. I turned instinctively and locked eyes with the tall boy who had slowly emerged from the cafeteria, moving cautiously as if traversing a battlefield. To my surprise, he was followed closely by the cleaner, who spoke to him in low tones, their expression steady yet kind. The boy's demeanor had shifted. He seemed unrooted, but soft in his blistering bravado, replaced by something tender and searching. As he spoke, embers of hurt issued from him, vulnerable and honest. "I'm sorry." The words escaped like a small spark in the midst of a vast, dark night. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just thought it was a moment that anchored my heart in place." Here, in the aftermath of chaos, we were witnessing a transformation, the intricate layers that shaped us revealing themselves, one heartbreak at a time. The crowd hushed, threads of shared experience weaving a tapestry of connection that seemed too delicate to touch. "Why do you care now?" someone shouted from the ranks, and a wave of discontent rippled through the gathered students. The air crackled with tension, and I could feel Sam flinch beside me, but the boy had stepped forward against the tide, reacting to the doubt. "Because I've been scared too," he admitted, vulnerability breaking over him like the first rays of dawn emerging from the dark horizon. "I've walked through life pretending that I'm something I'm not because I thought it was easier than facing what I really feel. I've spent so long hiding behind this mask, and I don't want to carry it anymore." His voice trembled, unveiling the struggles buried beneath armor forged of mockery and distrust. But it wasn't just his admission that stirred the air, it was the reaction of others, echoing murmurs, nods of understanding. Just as he reached a precipice, searching for understanding among the crowd, another shrill cry rang out. "Get back! Get back!" erupted from the other side of the parking lot. My heart raced again as we turned as one, fear etched on every face as the sound pierced through the air, resonating with a chilling familiarity. An all too familiar dread coiled around us. I met Sam's gaze and knew a deeper storm was brewing, one that could fracture everything we had just begun to build. "What is happening?" Mia whispered, fear quaking in her voice. I could see it, an unspoken truth tangled in the air, and then the sight struck me like a bolt. They were coming. Drifting, anonymous figures moved like shadows among the panic, and as dread coiled tighter in my gut, I knew that nothing would be the same again. The rising tension was palpable, a remote warning siren pulsing through the veins of the crowd as we honed in on the commotion. My heart thundered against my ribs like a wild drum, each beat echoing the terror threading its way through our small community. Fear hung thicker than smoke, an invisible weight pressing down on us. I glanced over at Sam and Mia, their faces ghostly in the harsh fluorescent lighting flickering above us, and felt a chill crawl up my spine. We were all wide-eyed and pinned in place, caught in the web of confusion. Around us, students drew closer together out of instinct, our shared anxiety binding us like a nearly invisible tether. In the distance, silhouettes surged forward, just out of focus, menacing and unstoppable. What were they doing here? My gut twisted. The knowledge that we were already teetering on the brink of something dark sent my pulse racing unsteadily. The tall boy's earlier vulnerability seemed to set him apart in stark contrast. Here was someone who had just laid bare the fear tethered to his bravado, yet the faces of his peers twisted with resentment and uncertainty. A handful of them edged away from him, muscles taut as they braced for a confrontation. "You know we never wanted you here," someone yelled, the insult shooting through the air like a bullet. But the boy stood firm, the glint of rawness in his eyes shifting to steel as he drew breath. "We can't keep running from our fears," he cried into the charged silence, his voice a pipeline of pain. "What if we're stronger together?" Those words mingled with the chaos rippling out from the growing fray. They felt like a fragile promise lost within the clamor. But before we could fully grasp their significance, a figure stepped ahead of the approaching pack, a gaze trained on our group with unsettling intensity. My breath caught when I recognized the face, Derek, the boy from history class whose life projections seemed to dim as fast as the flickering lights. And alongside him were others, each holding crude weapon makeshift clubs and cold steel, a band of doom weaving through the crowd like ghosts of nightmares past materializing into our reality. No one can be trusted. Derek's voice rang out, a mix of bravado and desperation. You all pretend to be on some journey of healing, but you don't know what fear really is until you face it. And even as he spoke, I saw glimpses of an internal struggle cross his features, shadows of doubt slipping through cracks in his tough exterior. Sam's grip tightened around my hand as he breathed out a shaky confession. They've got it all wrong. We can't fight each other. We should be the ones standing together. The strength in his voice resonated against my heart, a beacon flickering amidst our dire reality. Around us, murmurs swelled, and the tension became palpable. Faces conflicted with hurt and anger collided. It was as if the fabric of our unity threatened to unravel. Would this nightmare morph into a battleground right before our eyes? Please, I shouted, my voice trembling with urgency as I attempted to bridge the divide forming within our group. I stepped forward, exposing myself to the raw edges of fear that surrounded us. We're all scared. We've all felt pain. My words hung suspended, twisting in the cold air. It felt awful, an awkward confession spilling from a heart laid bare. This isn't the way. For a moment, the chaos melted in our reflections, and all eyes turned to me, palpable sadness mingling with defiance. Then a sharp intake of breath broke through the crowd, and anticipation thickened the atmosphere like the moody scent of a brewing storm. Mia emerged from beside me suddenly and raised her voice, interjecting with her wisdom born of heartbreak. This can't be another cycle of cruelty. We've already demonstrated the darkness we've known. There's beauty in each of our scars. Let's not decorate this reality with more wounds. Derek's face shifted, uncertainty darting behind his eyes as if her words were starting to resurface some of the humanity buried deep within him. Yet, a step back from authority sent the group reeling. They recoiled from the vulnerability in his expression. A longing for understanding echoed through us all, but fear held tighter to us, fear of judgment, fear of vulnerability. Then, without warning, the figure of the cleaner broke through the swelling mass, stepping into the space between us and the approaching threat. Every inch of him emanated a calm authority, a grounding presence within the sea of chaos. Enough, he roared, voice rich and unwavering. You all have a choice. His eyes scanned our faces, igniting flickers of hope amongst the turmoil, urging a transformation to unfold. You can be warriors of resilience instead of vessels of pain. The crowd stiffened, hovering on the edge of a precipice that could lead to unity or chaos. Would they accept the invitation to create something new, tender, and healing? Or were we fated to be marionettes in a tragedy sculpted by fear, shackled to our brokenness, without the light of connection? Then, as I caught my breath and felt Sam's head graze my shoulder, a distant siren wailed in the distance, blurring the line imaginable between safety and despair. We were standing there, suspended in the moment, with everything I feared but hoped intertwined like a swirling dance of darkness and light, when suddenly a deafening explosion rocked the parking lot. Everything erupted into chaos once more. Time felt dulled and devoid of sound, as the world distorted in ways I couldn't comprehend. And as I spun to find Sam's hand, to protect him amid the disarray, an unexpected figure suddenly loomed above, knocking me to the ground. My breath escaped me, eyes widening as dread entwined with wonder and uncertainty. Why did they feel familiar, these figures emerging from the smoke? This was far from over, and as we lay sprawled on that cracked asphalt, I couldn't help but think the storm we thought we'd braved had merely just begun. The world around me erupted into chaos, the cacophony of screams and shouts twisting into an anguished symphony. I struggled to push myself up off the ground, my vision fuzzy from the impact. I turned to find Sam, my heart racing with mounting fear as I scanned the chaos swirling around us. Sam, I called out, panic flooding my voice. I pushed through the throng, half fueled by instinct and half fueled by raw desperation to find him. The air was heavy with smoke and fear, memories of laughter and warmth faded into the background noise. But amidst the panic, I spotted Mrs. Alba near the entrance, her petite frame fighting against the tumult, the same warm aura surrounding her as when we first met. "Everyone, stay calm," she shouted, her voice a beacon in the storm. "We must get to safety." As I chased after her, I could feel the tremors of uncertainty weaving through the crowd. My heart sank when I didn't see Sam. The world felt hollow without him, a dark void growing within me as I moved further into the enveloping panic. My eyes darted left to right, searching frantically for his familiar figure. "Where's Sam?" I yelled to anyone that would listen. My voice was lost in the swirl of chaos, a moth bouncing against a flame that stole its light. It wasn't until Mrs. Alba turned to face me, her expression grave, that I felt a chill run down my spine. "He's just behind you. He's safe, but we need to get all of you out of here. What are those people doing?" I shouted in disbelief, feeling the warmth of anger seep into my veins as I caught sight of the tall figure of Derek, standing amidst the fraught group clenching makeshift weapons. Behind him, their faces twisted in confusion and fear, students were awakening from their haze of hatred, unsure of what to do. Amid the din, Sam's voice broke through, shaky yet defiant. "Stop!" he exclaimed, standing tall despite being surrounded. Chaos hushed as his presence drew every gaze. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions. Fighting each other isn't the answer. We've all been through pain, and we can choose something else. Kindness. We've shown it before." I felt tears prickle my eyes, a blend of pride and deep concern flooding through me. But Derek's smirk returned. "Look at you, telling us about kindness. Who do you think you are?" His bravado cracked, revealing a glimmer of uncertainty. "I'm someone who knows we can do better," Sam declared. "Derek, you think holding on to anger will bring you strength? It won't. We can either choose to hurt each other or choose to heal through understanding." His voice had steadied, cutting through the air with a melody of resolve. In that moment, I saw something shift in the eyes of not just Derek, but many others around us. "Enough," Derek bellowed with frustration. "You've already lost." With those words, all doubt vanished, and I finally stepped forward with Sam, joining him in this unexpected battleground. "You've misjudged us," I said firmly, my voice echoing through the heavy air. "You've sown a dangerous seed of hate into a community desperate for connection. But together we can uproot it. We can build bonds stronger than the divisions between us." The tall boy faltered, taken aback by our united front. Around us, whispers of affirmation flickered through the crowd like fireflies. "Fighting won't make the hurt go away," Mia added, stepping beside us. "It will perpetuate the pain that has twisted us all into painful masks we use to protect ourselves. True strength comes through vulnerability and connection, as much as it might scare us." Then, just as the monstrous energy began to shift towards understanding, a new wave of noise broke into the scene. The distant sirens echoed closer, illuminating the world around us. Flashing lights spilled into the chaos, a symbol of hope amid the turmoil. "Help us here," one of the teachers yelled, directing us to gather together. I took a determined breath, feeling the warmth of Sam's hand in mine as we stepped back towards safety and solidarity. As the first responders poured into the area, the chaos around us seemed to dissipate like fog dispersed by sunlight. From one corner of my vision, I spotted a small girl who I recognized from the gallery last week, her card in hand. She held it aloft like a symbol of bravery. "Look at Sam's art," she shouted. "Look how he'll share the truth about who we are." With wide eyes, everyone began to look, to listen, bound together in shared curiosity and fear. Sam's art was no longer simply the representation of pain. It was the embodiment of resiliencia, a reminder that amidst all the darkness, light could be found. "Let's show them," I encouraged, my heart pounding as I transformed my fright into resolve. "We will show them the stories our hearts hold, the beauty in each of our unique truths." In that moment, a collective breath of understanding rippled through. The chaos gave way to connection, and for the first time, the fear began to ebb. In a world where division had blinded us, we stood together, choosing kindness even amidst the storm. Mrs. Alba stepped forward once more, gathering us close. "You see? When we unite, We become like the threads of a tapestry together, weaving a story of hope. The moment was palpable, transformed with emotion that seemed to blanket the air, that emotional thread woven deep within each heart present there. Suddenly, Derek's bravado crumbled once and for all as he took a step back, faint whispers of a battle lost echoing on his lips. He faltered, emotions rushing in. "I don't want to hurt anymore." "Then don't," Sam replied, voice strong with empathy. "Join us. We're all more alike than we are different." Just like that connection surged through us. We became a beautiful mosaic of stories, rising together as an unwavering force against the shadows that sought to tear us apart. The final whirling chaos transformed. It wasn't about defeat anymore. It was about our shared truth, the miracle born from our bonds, a collective perspective rising to illuminate the darkness, and as the sirens faded into the background, the sun peeked through the dissipating clouds above, ushering in warmth and hope. It felt almost surreal, but undeniably alive. In that moment, as I looked at Sam, Mia, and even Derek, I knew we would all emerge from this transformed. I clutched my brother's hand tighter, feeling his heartbeat synchronize with mine. Together, we would heal. Together, we would rise, and as I glanced at the gathering of souls around us, hand in hand, hearts intertwining, the truth rang loud and clear. In a world divided, all it took was the courage to extend our hearts, to forge a path of connection even when the storm seems insurmountable. Together, I breathed out, we can shine, and in the interplay of shadows that once sought to conquer us, we became the light that would illuminate our destinies moving forward, ready to share our art, our laughter, and our La Visa tapestry woven into infinity.